Hi, my name is Kristy Miyashita. I am from Westchester, New York, and I now have my master's in global conflict and human security. So I went to undergrad at University of Rhode Island. I got my BSN, my bachelor's in nursing there, and then between there and here, my major milestones were Peace Corps and then my work as a nurse. So I graduated from nursing school, got my nursing license right after, and then within 4 months, I moved to Paraguay, and I was a community health volunteer there. So they had assigned me, after 3 months of training, they had assigned me to go to a very rural community of around 5,000 people, dirt roads, and no real healthcare infrastructure aside from just a small community health post. We helped develop their healthcare census there. So it was really when I was there that I saw the importance of it and seeing how receptive the community members were. I think that's where I really found interest for myself in saying, this is what I could potentially pursue after this. I was in Paraguay for a year before COVID, and then COVID hit. We had to get evacuated and come home. As soon as they reopened the airport, I moved back to Paraguay for a year. I finished up some projects that I had going. And then I knew someone that I met while I was working as a nurse for the 7 months. She said, there's an open position at the hospital. Just, apply and we'll see, where we can get you. That's how I got involved in the hospital. I knew that as a nurse at some point, I would need the hard skill, traditional nursing experience. But not necessarily at all as the destination of where I wanted to go with nursing. I just knew that it was kind of the pathway of it. So I was working at the hospital there full time for about 3 years until I found GCHS. I found my new job, and it all kind of led into everything fed into each other really, really well. I got the itch to go back to school. I knew exactly what I wanted to do because of Peace Corps and everything. And then I know there's a lot of other questions that focus on, what was so special with GCHS. But once I found it, it kind of, I felt like it was just so niche and something I had never seen before in other degrees. With nursing, it's either, what always drives me crazy is that it's you either have to choose nursing or you have to choose any interest that surrounds it. And especially with what I wanted to do particularly with immigrants and underserved communities, it's either you're in the hospital doing nursing or you have to let go of that and then just focus on the other. And then there's a lot of pros and cons that come with both of, which direction you wanted to go. And this was the only degree that actually allowed me to have the healthcare lens, but then focus on every other issue that I actually wanted to learn about. Professor Nipa Gonzalez, she actually connected me with one of the alumni who was in Doctors Without Borders. He was a physician, and he broke down every class for me, and how, because I was actually having trouble convincing my hospital that I was working at that program is applicable for nurses. It's the story of my life of me trying to convince people that nursing is not just a bedside career, that there's so many other things. And it was really hard to convince them for tuition reimbursement, because they had a bunch of programs that they assumed are appropriate for nurses, and they said, what are you doing in this program? You're not going to do anything in your career for this. And I'm yes, there are options for it. So thanks to him, he broke down every class for me, and I was able to at least go back to the administration and say, no, these are the reasons why it's appropriate for a healthcare professional. And then on top of that, just speaking to the staff in the Carsey school. That's kind of how I ended up here, because there was just nothing like it. I didn't have to really wish my nursing experience or any other field that I wanted to focus on. It just was the perfect blend of everything. That was my biggest hesitation. I had never, luckily I was out of college before COVID. I never took any online classes before. So when I came into it, I had some skepticism, but I think I quickly found that this was exactly what I wanted to be doing. I really got into mine with Saw Keep and Joel on. I had never, orchestrated like a whole plan, the way that they taught us how to do it with the Gantt charts and, stakeholders and monitoring and evaluating and everything. And a lot of my classmates, they had community counterparts that they were able to work with. And because I wanted to stay in like the healthcare realm, there was a lot of red tape. So I ended up spending like a lot of time out in the community trying to just do everything on my own. My capstone project was called Redefining Healthcare for Latino Asylum Seekers in New York City. So I was just going on my own to migrant intake shelters and doing interviews on my own instead of going through organizations and doing it that way. I was just kind of canvassing neighborhoods that I knew were home to a lot of immigrants. So that ended up being just like the heavier thing that I was pouring everything into. And then the classes just ended up being something that I was just able to like really do like quickly on the side almost. It was so interesting that it wasn't burdensome to just get that done. The way it all worked out is, again, it's just funny how like each thing has like exactly fed into my next steps, because then this project, the capstone that I had for redefining healthcare for Latino asylum seekers, is basically a mirror of my job now at Sloan Kettering, where my department is called Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparities, and I'm working primarily with Latino asylum seekers and immigrants, and we're doing healthcare screenings and interviews with them. So it was just crazy the way that everything kind of worked out. I'm going to some of the same places that I went to by myself. And then I was like, oh wow, that's so weird how it really became like a full circle moment. And when I was in my interviews for that job and I was telling the leadership of the department about how I literally feel like I was doing the job already, they were so impressed by it. So it really, I felt I was reaping the benefits really quickly, because it happened as soon as I finished the degree. So I'm a clinical trials nurse for the Immigrant Health and Cancer Disparity Service at Sloan Kettering. Sloan Kettering is a cancer hospital in the city. So we work with the taxi drivers all around New York City. That's one project, is the taxi team that I support. And then we also have the mobile health unit, which is when we have our mobile health van, and we just go to all 5 boroughs, particularly to underserved, very marginalized communities. And so I support both of those teams. And it's just so interesting. I grew up in New York, in the city all the time. Did I ever have these conversations with the taxi drivers ever in my life? No. But now it's I know everything about them. I know their grandma's past medical history, and it's really interesting because now I get to just talk to all these different subsets of communities that I never had the chance to talk to before. GCHS is so unique. I've never seen another job like the job I have right now, where you get to work in the community with this population and also do nursing. It just doesn't exist. I've looked everywhere. So when I found that job, when I saw the job listing, I had a visceral reaction to it, because I was like, no way is this literally describing exactly what I want to do verbatim. So right now, I can't think of something else I would want to do more than what I'm doing now. But I think, my thought process as I was taking the GCHS classes and, after Peace Corps, I think I do want to eventually find myself more of a global health type of workforce. But maybe the WHO or some agency that has a larger scale impact, that would be end goal, you made it type of job. I think immediately again, like I said, the job I'm in right now at Sloan Kettering, I was able to directly refer to certain projects I was working in, classes I was taking during my interviews with the leadership of my department. But I think because, again, the program covers so many different areas than just health, that definitely more employers for these larger scale operations probably, I would hope, would take me more seriously, especially with the work experience that I'm gaining at Sloan Kettering in the immigrant community, that the accumulation of everything, that I think that it would get me to where I want to.